All right, next up, we got a men's flyweight bout here as we have Bruno Silva coming in at minus 135, going up against Edgar Chairez, who comes in at plus 115. Now, Silva is looking to bounce back after a very close defeat at the hands of Charles Johnson from earlier this year. It was a close fight, but one where Johnson was sticking and moving pretty well and really causing Silva a lot of troubles, I believe, especially in those first and third rounds. Silva is a very aggressive fighter. This guy loves to push the pace. He loves to try to break opponents, and he loves to try finishing them just as he did against Hyun Sung Park in his last victory. That was a matchup where he really showed Park no respect, landing his calf kicks, landing big shots to hurt Park repeatedly on the feet, and then eventually pulled through with a submission win in the third round of that fight. Silva is a guy that's often been underrated in the flyweight division, but he's only coming up as of late to high-level guys, right? Manel Kape, Joshua Van, back-to-back third-round knockout losses against those guys. And then the Charles Johnson fight, again, he made a great account of himself, but he really struggled with the distance management and the volume of Johnson. But Silva does a great job in terms of just walking his opponents down, implementing that calf kick, mixing the grappling up when he sees the opportunities, but he has some great boxing combinations with some good power behind it as well. And he's also a guy that often goes out there and seeks violence, right? More often than not, his fights finish inside the distance, whether it's him getting the win or him getting the finish. Him getting finished or him getting the finish. But he is one of my, favorite flyweights on the roster because of his willingness to engage in wars and really try to break opponents down in that fashion. Now he's going up against Edgar Chairez, who's looking for his third straight victory here. And this is the first time he's actually on a winning streak through his UFC run so far. The first of which was a win over CJ Vergara. Actually, let's talk about the Joshua Van fight, which was at the Sphere back in September of 2024. And that was a fight that he started off pretty well, but that's usually the case with most of Joshua Van's fights. He usually takes about a round or so to get his reads and then start letting go with his shots. And that's what really caused Chairez some problems as Van started to work the body, get on that pressure, get off on his volume. And that led to Van winning those second and third rounds pretty decisively. But Chairez was able to get back on the horse, getting that submission victory over CJ Vergara. And then last time around, a very, very close fight that he had against Felipe Bunez. Bunez was able to ride the back of Chairez for about 2.5 to 3 minutes in the first round. The second round was very close, but I thought it was, a fight, a round that you probably gave to Chairez. And then the third round, I thought it was pretty obvious that Chairez had won that round. I like Chairez. I think he's kind of under-delivering so far in his UFC run. I thought he was a little bit more violent and a little bit more effective. He is aggressive, right? He has good Muay Thai. He has a good submission game off of his back as well. Long, lanky arms help him lock up that front choke that he's been able to get in a couple of his fights. But a guy that can be broken down as well if you keep that pressure on him effectively and try to stay away from some of the finishing threats that he brings to the table. Now, this is a fun fight. Both guys are going to be going for it here. Both guys are often very aggressive, but I have to give the technical edges to Bruno Silva. I think he'll be able to walk Chairez down here. I think he's going to smother and crowd the space of Chairez so Chairez can take advantage of the 3-inch height advantage as well as 5-inch reach advantage that he has. And I don't think he has that one-punch crazy knockout power that's going to cause Silva some issues here. The way that Van and Kape got Silva out of there was just a body of work over 12 and a half minutes that they were put on Silva to eventually get him out of there in the third round, whereas I don't think Chairez has the capability of doing that. I think Silva is going to continuously move forward. I think he's going to chop away at the lead leg of Chairez. I think he's going to open up some takedown opportunities, and I think he'll be able to avoid most of the finishing danger from Chairez as well, and I think that will allow Silva to grind this fight out. So at minus 135, I don't mind him. I think he wins by decision. I think he does a good enough job in terms of just keeping that pace and pressure on Chairez, avoiding the finishing, submission threat of Chairez, some of the knees and elbows as well, and I believe the fact that Silva dictates the pace of this fight will be the reason he ends up winning it in the long run. So give me Silva and Silva by decision.